Don't forget to check out the Sunset Lounge. Check out patreon.com/Sunset Lounge DFW. There you will find, among other things, Beer 30 Sports O'Clock. This is your favorite go-to for discussing craft beer and breweries, all things sports, but mainly college football. Ziggy is the host. He gives you real barbershop sports talk and gives you the tips you need before you lay down those bets. So check out Beer 30 Sports O'Clock and all the great stuff we have for you here at the Sunset Lounge.
Nobody would have thought that I would be the one. Rhyner, sports talk.
Baseball. Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We had a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip?
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off sale. Is this a cool night or what? Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
Hey, kids. It is another episode of Your Dark Companion coming your way. This is the 30th of June. The month of July starts tomorrow. And we are here inside for you today, inside the nurturing biosphere. Got the crew assembled here. Shoopy, Ashley, Becca. Got a new intern, too. Yeah. Gonna have to break him in the hard way.
Because we're known for that.
It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We mentioned that because after this is over, anything that happens between the time we end and the time you consume this, we are not responsible for that. But if you're out there by the channel live, great. Glad to have you with us. Today, it is baseball time in Texas. And I can scarcely think of anybody I'd rather get in here to talk baseball with than the great Jamey Newberg of the Newberg Report.
Right.
Hi.
How we doing?
We're doing okay.
I noticed
all right.
this room is like full of baseball memorabilia. I just wonder, do you change it out if you have a Cowboys guest and pull everything down? And
Nope. It all stays as is.
I dig it. Love it.
All stays as is. How are you?
I'm good,
Man, our paths haven't crossed in a while.
It has been a while. I used to bug you all the time to come speak to my SMU class, and so now you've got me in your chair. I love it. I love that.
Well, things flip over the years, you know?
They do.
Like we say, he's a baseball guy. I'm a baseball guy. It's what we do. And with this Ranger team this year, it's been weird. I mean, I always say this is like man bites dog. We're used to the Rangers being one thing, and now there's something completely different.
Maybe more this year than ever.
Yes, I think more. I think no question about that. Yeah. More this year than ever.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen this team flip this dramatically between what we have always known it to be and what it is right now.
Yeah. You've got so much overachieving on the pitching staff and so much underachieving on the offense. And this franchise, as you well know, you go back all the way, has long been known for just the opposite.
Yeah.
So
this team has always been able to hit, but pitching has always been a seemingly unsolvable problem. I mean, there have been years over the years when it hasn't been quite as bad as others, but it has always been far more known for offense than pitching.
Yeah.
And this year, man, it's just the complete and total reverse. Do you have any reasons or any kind of causes for this?
Man,
I try to talk to a lot of people about this, and I get all kinds of answers.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if you had Chris Young or Bruce Bochy in this chair, if they'd have a great answer for it. It has just been confounding. Like, even coming into the season, like so many national experts were saying, this is right there with the favorites to win the pennant.
Yeah.
Even after last year didn't go well, with the changes they made in the offseason and the expected regression in a positive way, people thought the offense was going to be a juggernaut and the pitching would be good enough for this team to get back to the World Series this year. And I think the front office believed that. You know, that the offense was now in place to get back to, you know, what they were in 2023. And when I say back what they were, you know, obviously you don't just go into a season saying, well, we've got another World Series in the bag this year. But we have to remember that was a wild card team in 2023.
It was.
And they kind of limped into, you know, the last couple months. They almost didn't make the playoffs after a very good first half. And so if you look at that season as a whole and ignore what happened in October, which was magical, there was good reason to believe that this roster was at least as built as well as the 2023 roster, especially since DeGrom's healthy, right?
Yeah. In 2023, as they're going into the tournament, what were your thoughts on them then?
I just remember feeling very bad about that last weekend in Seattle. The offense that weekend was very much like it is now. Like, you would have innings where they'd have two men on and nobody out, and you wouldn't feel good. Like, you'd feel like, let's, you know, hopefully we can scratch a run out of this. After having one of the best offenses in the league that season, they just, other than Evan Carter giving them a huge lift when he came up 3 weeks to go, the offense was kind of flagging going into deep into September. They won just enough games to get in. I didn't feel great about it because they had to fly from Seattle to St. Petersburg, not a short flight,
No.
and immediately play the wild card series as the road team. And then, as we know, they went 11-0 on the road for the month. Never had home field. I take that back. They had home field in the World Series. But it definitely went in a different direction than I felt as September came to an end. And I'm sure everybody was that way. Like, okay, we're back in the playoffs, first time since 2016. So that felt good, but it didn't feel like we were going in on a high.
At what point along that trail, if there is a point along that trail where you felt this way, did you think, okay, we might have a legitimate shot here?
Yeah. I remember feeling that in Baltimore.
Yeah.
You know, Tampa Bay, you know, they won 2 games. That was great. Like, okay, they got on the roll. They had the right couple pitchers going. That went really well. Baltimore won 101 games. Mm-hmm. And we're going there.
Really good Orioles team.
We're going there. So you got to win 2 of 3, and the first 2 are in Baltimore. So, you know, series may not even come back to Texas, right? And they go in there, and I'll never forget in game 1. I was at these 2 games. Game 1, when Jonah Heim threw Gunnar Henderson out trying to steal in the 9th inning. That was the moment. Or I thought, not that we're in their heads, but I thought, we are stepping up and Baltimore is not. Like, that was just a huge moment for him to get thrown out. We won that. I think we won by 1 run. And Heim throws Henderson out trying to steal. We hold on for the win. Game 2, it almost felt like, okay, we're going to take this. And we got up, like, that was the game when Mitch Garber hit the grand slam. We were up like 8-1 at some point. Like,
yeah.
That's so, like, late in game 1, and then as game 2 is unfolding, I thought, okay, this team is kind of on a roll, kind of on a mission. I definitely was hoping that Minnesota would beat the Astros. I did not want to run into Houston just because of our history with them. But I say this all the time. Going through Houston to get there eliminates any what ifs. Like, if they had gone through Minnesota, won the World Series, well, if Houston would have taken care in the DS and you had to play the Astros, it would have ended. So, like, there's an asterisk. Not at all. When you had to go through Houston and beat them, that sort of like stamped the approval of the whole run.
I felt strangely confident as
Against
they went
Houston?
into that series with Houston. And the reason I did is because things were starting to fall their way. When I looked at the complete tournament as it started, there were 2 teams out there that troubled me. One was the Orioles, which the Rangers took care of themselves. And the other was over in the National League. I really feared the Phillies back then.
Yeah.
But the Phillies got knocked out early too. And once that happened, then I started thinking, okay, there may be a legitimate shot here.
Yeah.
And then when they got into the World Series against the Diamondbacks, I mean, no disrespect, but I was pretty confident all throughout that.
But imagine if Corey doesn't hit that ninth inning home run, okay, and we lose game one, narrowly. A good game, but we lose it. Game two, Merrill Kelly shut us down.
Yeah,
like we were out of that game early. If it's 0-2 going to Arizona,
well, that's different.
Going to Phoenix, like,
that's different then. And then I've got misplaced confidence.
No, and we're all entitled to change, and a barometer can flip in a moment, right? But the reason, like, and I bet everybody in this room was at that game, like. The home run Corey Seager hit, greatest moment in franchise history for a lot of people. I felt like the building was shaking. It was our guy doing what he does. It didn't feel fluky. It just felt like a guy stepping up in the moment. And sort of like when I was talking about how Baltimore kind of cratered in the moment, Arizona's closer throws a cookie to Corey Seager. Like, you just can't do that. You pitch around him. If anything, you're willing to put him on base.
Right.
And I just felt like, obviously, when they won that game, now you've got some momentum. That they lost the next day. They lost the momentum because, I mean, Kelly shut them down. And here's the other thing. I'm probably getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. So I went to Arizona for those three. If we had lost game 5, and that was the game where we were being no-hit into, the 6th inning by Zach Gallen.
Yeah.
And Evaldi
was the Gallen game.
Evaldi was giving up 2 base runners every inning and getting out of it. Like, if we'd lost that game, it comes back to Texas for game 6 with Merrill Kelly back on the mound. And then game 7, if we lose that one, we don't know who's starting because Scherzer's hurt. So if we don't win I know we could say, oh, we won in 5, so we kind of we skated. We just, we trucked them. If we lost game 5 and it's 2-2 or 3-2 coming back here, but they've got Kelly, and then we have a bullpen game in game 7. Who knows where it goes? I wouldn't feel great about it.
No,
So
I wouldn't either.
Things really felt right. As we like to say, flags fly forever. They can never take it away. All of that. Around the league, I have this gnawing, almost like an ache that fans around baseball think of the 23 Rangers as kind of a fluke because so many losing seasons before it. So far, 2 losing seasons since. But man, I know in this room we don't feel that way. Like they got on a heater in October, which is when when you can step up like that for 17 games. This isn't like NFL. You win 3 or 4 games, you've won it all. That's something special, man. I don't care what they had done for the years before, the years since.
Yeah, and you can talk fluke all you want, but you still got to go out there and win those games and do what you have to do, and get on a roll and sustain it throughout the tournament, and the Rangers did that. Nobody can take that away from them.
100%.
I mean, they did what they had to do. They did what any team that wins the World Series does.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't a steamroller like the Yankees teams of the '60s were, or something like that. But still, I mean, flags do fly forever.
Yeah. And we talked about it a little bit before we went on air, but you said something like, I deserve that because you've been with the team since day one. I haven't been with them quite as long. I came into maybe 1976, so maybe the 5th year of the franchise. But it's been a lifetime. I've been with this team for a lifetime, and I feel like we finally got it. I didn't know if I was going to live my entire life without a World Series champion in the sport that I love the most. I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm a Mavs fan, Stars. But if the Rangers never rewarded me with that parade, and I do feel like rewarded me because I invested a lot of me in my emotions about this team and this sport. Now they can't take it away. We got one. Let's go get another, but we got one.
Yeah. If we don't get another, as they say, now I can die happy.
Right.
But another would be.
It'd be nice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Newberg report. You were one of the sharpest baseball minds that I come into contact with. And that's saying something, because around here over the years, we've had a lot of really visionary baseball writers and broadcasters and things of that nature coming through here. What got you going on the Newberg report?
I tell this story in different ways depending on who I'm talking to. I'm gonna have a very unique way of telling it because I'm talking with Mike Rhyner. Because you know this, maybe you've forgotten it, but the reason I'm in this chair today is because of you. Like, it does not happen, and I'll educate.
All right, this is a little strong.
I'll educate your viewers on this. So, I started practicing law in 1994, a little over 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 years after that, there wasn't really any conscious reason for doing it. I like to think in retrospect, I started writing about baseball just to sort of be able to flip the lawyer switch off each day, because it's a very intense profession, and I'm a trial lawyer, so I'm paid to be adversarial. It's like, again, this is all hindsight, but maybe subconsciously the reason I wanted to have something to distract myself and not think like a lawyer 24/7, I started writing about baseball. When I say writing about baseball, it was basically an email group of me and 8 of my buddies.
Yeah.
And I would send an email out each morning, little bit about last night's Ranger game, but at the time, I was really talking about the Rangers farm system.
Yeah.
I'd had an intense interest about that, and there were beat writers in town that also cared about the minor leagues, but this was back in the days of only print. Like, there wasn't really online. I mean, there was a little bit of an online presence for the morning news and so forth, but they didn't get a lot of space to talk about the minor leagues. They may have had a couple inches once a week. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I can talk about this every day, because I'm checking box scores and so gradually that email group of 8, there was no website, there was no such thing. I don't think the word blog had been invented. So it was just an email discussion. And every once in a while, someone on the list would say, hey, can you add my boss or my dad or my mom or my coworkers want to jump on this list? And so it started growing. I don't know who it was. Someone added you. Someone recommended to you to jump onto this. And I remember we were both on America Online with our email, because I knew that, because I got an instant message from you one night. This is 1998. Tell me more about Jeff Zimmerman. Or I can't remember which prospect it was. It was probably Jeff Zimmerman.
Or Mike Zawicka.
It might have been Mike Zawicka or Kelly Dransfeld. Very well could have been. The thing is I think back to that instant message and the conversations you and I used to have almost day to day after that. I felt like I'd made it. Like, I was sending emails out to my college buddies. Now I'm having a conversation with the top sports talk guy in Dallas, Fort Worth. Like, to me, okay, this has not gone where I intended to, but I have reached the pinnacle. That was it to me.
All right, now this is the way I remember all this.
Okay.
Back then, the team wasn't really all that great.
I'm going to correct you. We were in the playoffs in 96 and again in 98. This is
okay. All right. Okay.
We were getting fed to the Yankees, but we were in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like there was a
97 was rough.
Yeah.
That was a third place finish. Just wasn't a very good year.
They fell back. I remember that.
It seemed like every year there was a wall out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I was starting to read some pretty serious touts from the minor leagues in some of the national publications. And occasionally, when I would talk about the Rangers on the air, I would talk about something that happened in the minor leagues, or somebody that was on the rise through the minor leagues, or some guy who was hot at the moment or something like that. And nobody in the room gave a damn about it except me. But one night, I get an instant message, an AOL instant message from him.
So you think I started it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you got the steel trap. It may have happened that way.
No, I don't. You do. But this is just the way I remember it. I got an AOL instant message from Jamey about somebody in the minor leagues, probably one of those guys that you just mentioned, maybe somebody else. I really don't remember. And there was a little bit of back and forth between the two of us about him. Wink. And the same thing would happen over a period of a few days. And it wasn't long until I realized that this guy is really into the minor league scene. Not only is he into the minor league scene, he knows a lot more about it than I do.
You cared a lot.
I cared a lot, but I just didn't have, I guess I just didn't have access to the stuff that you had access to.
How did you get your info? Like, was it through going to games? Was it through just reading the papers, reading articles?
We didn't even have a team in Frisco yet. Like our double A team was in Tulsa, and I remember like just opening up the Tulsa World's website, or I can't remember, like I think Class A we might have been in Gastonia. So like I'm just pulling up websites and reading game stories. And I was subscribing to Baseball America, but they didn't have much of an online presence yet, so I'm waiting for the hard copies to come in the mail.
Yeah.
They're 2 weeks outdated.
Yeah, I was doing that too.
Yeah, but where I was getting my information mostly was reading beat writers in the minor league towns and just reading what they were writing about last night's game. And, you know, it's like some people are with football recruiting.
Yeah.
Like I was just very much into the player development scene in baseball in terms of the minor leagues.
Well, I started to realize that this guy knew a lot more about this than I did. And so I started to lean on him a little bit for what he knew. And I would, take that to the air. And then as I got to know him a little bit better over a period of time, I realized that this guy was extremely smart. This guy knew ball. He was extremely smart. And this was a resource here in every way. And then from there, it just blew up, and I've been following you ever since.
Well, and I appreciate that. But, the reason I say, like, this doesn't happen without you is you started reading on the air from what I wrote. I was writing. This is before we had kids, so I was writing every day. And it got to the point, I think it was maybe 4:40. Like, every day there was a set time. And I think you're the one who named it the Newberg Minor League Report.
Yeah, I think I did do that.
And you started reading, you and Grego were reading every day from something I'd written that day, and that's when things blew up. I'm starting to get like, please add me to your email list. Still no website. Your email list, and starts growing, and I start hearing from people in baseball operations with the Rangers, hey, we hear what you're doing. Thanks for thanks for getting the word out and talking about what we're doing down on the farm. And so now I'm developing some relationships with some of the the farm directors and the scouts and the coaches, and now I'm like, you can imagine how you would have been like. I want to have conversations with them as often as they'll allow it.
Yeah,
I just want to hear about how the player development mentality.
Who are
certain players?
Who are the guys that would talk to you? Because baseball is kind of it's not kind of an insular game. It is an insular game.
Yeah. So this was still in the Doug Melvin days.
Yeah.
And Reed Nichols was the assistant general manager, and he was very skeptical of me. Like, there was an incident where Reed invited me to come out to the ballpark of sometime in January. They were having like a mini camp for the players they had just drafted. In fact, I know it was 2000 because they just drafted Hank Blaylock and Kevin Mensch in 99. I remember they were there on the field. So he invites me, hey, you want to come out? This is not like open to the public, and we're not even inviting the press, but if you want to come look, these are the guys you've been writing about. So absolutely. So I get there, very cold day, it's probably 40 degrees, and this is the ballpark without a roof, and it's cold. So he tells me, like, this is the one gate that's open off the concourse. Come down that gate, I'll be down in the seats, near the third base dugout. So I go down there, he's sitting, there's no one else in the entire seating bowl. I sit next to him, and I think for about 75 minutes, he is taking my deposition. He is so skeptical of where I'm getting my information. I learned within about 3 minutes the reason he invited me out there was to put me under an interrogation lamp and figure out, like, who's feeding me all this information. And I told Reed, I said, I'm reading the Tulsa World. I'm reading newspapers and getting my information that way. No one's feeding me anything. Like, and by the end of it, I think he even said, like, okay, now I realize you're just an insane baseball fan. And I said, yeah, basically. And he and I became good after that. And Doug Melvin was always appreciative. I'd see him at spring training or something, and he'd recognize me, and
he's a great guy.
I'd bug him for a 10-minute conversation. Yeah, he's a great dude. So it was back in those days, the Melvin Nichols regime, and then that turned into the John Hart regime, and I got to know JD when he was an intern, and so and I got to know Michael Young when he was in AAA. So like I got to know some guys that were not yet part of the conversation, and then certainly that helped develop relationships, rapport with people like that as they move forward in their careers, whether on the field or off. Like, that was always huge to me. The relationships, and you probably say the same thing about radio. The relationships have made this the most worth it. This thing that I do, this insane hobby I've got. But again, it doesn't get anywhere near any of that unless the ticket is putting the word out, and that was you.
No,
standing by it.
Okay, I won't try and talk you down or anything. How is this viewed in your other world? Because I mean, you got to be a toggler of the highest order, toggling between law and this.
Yeah, and now I'm teaching too.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I'm never good when I don't have enough to do. I definitely have had trouble saying no to things, and I take on a lot. I put a lot on myself, and I think I'm happiest then and probably most productive when I have to sort of compartmentalize things. And it's funny, like I do have client. I've had like one, maybe two clients over these 30 years that have said something to me like, how are you spending time on my case? Like you're writing every day or every other day. I said, if you ever feel like I'm not like on the ball and like asking you questions before you have to ask me, you tell me, because I take pride in not being a part-time anything. But it's been very rare, like that I've had anybody question that, they weren't questioning it like in a confrontational way. It was more like, how are you like writing about baseball when we got trial in 3 weeks? Like, so the toggling has just been, the way I'm wired. And again, I go back to almost 30 years ago when, whether it was conscious or not, it was mentally healthy for me to have something else to focus on other than litigation.
Yeah.
I know plenty of lawyers that I've worked with, worked against. You can tell they are that person every minute of the day. And that's, better or worse, that's not what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be someone who's confrontational when you're just at your kid's ball game or a coffee shop. And I know lawyers who are like that. They're great lawyers, but it's always been like, for my mental health, it's been good to have something else to just each day or several days a week, just to kind of shut one thing down and go to the other. I think it probably makes me a better lawyer, maybe makes me a better writer, that I'm not always focused on that 24 hours a day, but it's just the way I am. And I think if I didn't have enough to do, that's when I'd get crabby and probably unproductive.
You're a rare bird, man.
I know people like me, like that they need too much to do to feel like they're
I know a few like that. Not too many, but a few. And most of the ones I know don't really wear it quite as well as you seem to.
It's worked out. That's all. I mean, I don't know any different way, but I just know, like, I feel like even during baseball season, when I'm like writing more and there's more to pay attention to, I feel more dialed in as a lawyer too. I don't know. You wake up and, okay, here's the things I have to do with this today and with this today. And I'm going to come do a podcast with Mike Rhyner and Grooves today. And like, just having those like day parts kind of lined out, I don't know. It just, I feel more locked in. I don't know how to explain it.
That's wild, man.
You need to teach us.
I know.
Yeah, we could use that kind of focus up in here for sure. All right, this is Jamey Newberg with us today. He is a lawyer. He is a baseball writer. He is a guy that I've been able to call a friend for a good number of years, and we'll have a little bit more with him coming up directly. But first, let me ask you this. What if I told you you can free yourself of pain and anxiety and sleepless nights? And what if you could do it naturally? Well, then I would have to tell you about the CBD House of Healing. That's a women-owned CBD boutique. They can help. They would like to help. They carry only products from their lab. They are made to meet the highest quality and purity standards. Their owner, who is also an RN, by the way, emphasizes building trusted relationships. They're not just going to get you in there and sell you something. They're going to talk to you, figure out what's going on, and tell you what they think you need to do about it. It's all based on relationships through education. They give you the knowledge to care for yourself. That's their ultimate goal. Find your relief from the aches and pains and the emotional stress and drain, and sleep again. CBDDallas.com is their website at the CBD House of Healing. They're at 8550 Plano Road on the northeast corner of the burgeoning intersection of Plano Road and Northwest Highway. Begin your healing at the House of Healing, and for gosh sakes, sleep again. Would that not be nice? I think it would. Is that all we got? We got one more? Okay. Let me tell you about the OG. It is back again next Thursday, the 10th of July. Grego, Shoopy, and I all together talking sports and only sports, sharing our hardline positions on all the teams, athletes, coaches, owners, what have you. So join us live on Patreon or in person at Birdie's East Side, 6221 East Mockingbird Lane in Dallas. That's where we do the OG, and we would love to see you there. Is that it?
Nailed it.
All right.
Yeah.
That's about the best experience we've ever had with the mid-show roll read, isn't it?
That was not dreaded at all.
No,
Yeah.
that was not dreaded.
That was lovely, in
almost
fact.
good. All right, now back to ball. Why can't this team hit?
It's a great question. I think that anybody who's played baseball at any level, and I played it a little bit, it is such a mental game and a game of failure. And, you know, the old cliche is you get a hit 3 times out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame. To me, just watching the team, and what do I know? But watching the team, it looks like there's a lot of guys that are sort of wearing the fact that the entire team, offensively, is falling short of expectations, and it just puts added pressure on each guy to think, okay, if I can get rolling, then maybe the guy right after me gets rolling a little bit, and we get a couple guys rolling. It's infectious, and we can turn this around if I can only like get three knocks tonight. And it just seems, and this isn't all of them, but it does seem like some of the players, they're chasing more pitches out of the zone. There's times where it feels like they're guessing so much that they're taking a pitch right down the middle, even with 2 strikes. Doesn't happen a lot, but it happens more than I'm used to seeing. It just looks like there are guys putting more pressure on themselves to try to lift the whole boat. And that's not a good way to be, because it's already a very difficult game mentally taxing. And to add pressure internally on that, especially at the plate, where you're in a defensive posture, you know, the pitcher's in control and you're trying to react and adjust to what he's trying to do to you. And he's got a book on you, and it's very easy to overthink. And it just seems like a lot of them are overthinking.
Yeah, it just seems like you can tell a lot of guys go into a plate appearance and their mind is not clear. They're just thinking about too much. I got to do this because nobody else is doing it. If I don't do it, nobody's going to do it, and then it's just not going to go well for us.
Yeah, and I'm a believer. I know not everybody believes this, but I think the opposite can be true. That when a team starts cooking and there's less pressure on that number 6 hitter to perform, he's got a really good chance to hit better and get on a roll himself, because there's less pressure. And you're like, I'm here to kind of to keep the ball rolling, station to station. Let's keep this thing moving. Let's turn the lineup over. And if you don't feel like it's all on your shoulders, I think it can have an effect where there is sort of like this built momentum within a lineup that when a couple guys get going, it's more likely that the rest will follow.
Yeah, I think that too. What do you think about the state of pitching in this game right now?
The game itself is not just the Rangers. You know, the advent of Driveline and these other pitching factories and the money that is being made now for pitchers, starting pitchers especially, there is so much incentive for a 14-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 24-year-old to do everything he can to amp up the velocity and not to conserve it through games. Like, you know, you and I are used to watching, you know, guys pitch in the 70s and 80s and go 8 or 9. but they weren't necessarily dialing up like a closer would, right? In the third inning, they're not doing that. Well, those days have changed. And because pitchers do get hurt, and sometimes it shortens not only seasons but careers, it seems like teams are like, we're going to pay guys to like get after it, and we know we're going to just have to turn to someone else in the next couple of years. Like, you get what you can out of them when you can. And the pitchers certainly aren't averse to that, because that's how they make their money, right? Have one or two really big years, you're going to make generational wealth as a starting pitcher. And so you just see, I think I heard a stat today, there's been 40 pitchers this year that have touched 100. Like, in the 70s, there was one.
Yeah.
There were two. There were J.R. Richard and Nolan Ryan. That was about it, right? Like, now it's just commonplace. And it's not because, humanity's changing. It's because these pitchers are training well before they get into pro ball to maximize velocity and maximize spin on the breaking ball. And, especially now that it's being measured, what's your spin rate? Even like Chris Young has talked about this. His fastball was 90, 93? But it was really effective because obviously he had elite extension. He's releasing the ball closer to home plate than anybody because he's 6'10". But in addition, what he now knows in retrospect is he had tremendous spin on his fastball, which made it look like it was rising when he elevated it. I mean, you and I know forever it was taught you pitch down, right?
Yeah.
That was the premium was keep the ball at the knees. Now you see pitchers elevating all the time because now there's scientific understanding that if you have certain spin on your fastball, it doesn't it looks almost like it's rising because the spin prevents it from dipping as much as you're used to. And so Chris Young has said, like, if I knew like that's the reason, like, I would have loved to have that information. My career might have lasted longer. But now that's a thing. Like, there's so much science out there that allows pitchers to maximize things they do that wasn't around 10, 20 years ago. And so I think the state of pitching, the way you frame the question is, guys are getting into pro ball, I would say even in high school and college ball, and just trying to air it out. Even if you're the starting pitcher expected to go 5, 6, 7 innings, you're pitching in the second inning like it's 2 outs in the ninth. And it's just led to a lot more injuries.
Another thing that I've noticed is that these days, or well, back in the day, back in like the 60s and 70s when I was, making my way up into baseball and everything, guys would go into an at-bat knowing that they were probably going to see 2 or 3 pitches. I mean, every pitcher had a fastball. He had a curveball. He might have had a slider.
Yeah.
Might have had a changeup. You were going to see no more than 4 and probably 2 or 3, more likely than 4. Now, fastballs have all kinds of variations on them. You've got curveballs, you've got sliders, you got changeups, and now you got the sweeper. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot more going on in an at-bat.
And that goes to the idea of hitters sometimes overthinking.
Yeah.
You're thinking about, okay, is he going to come at me with his 6th pitch right here? Right?
Yeah.
Like Yu Darvish arrives at stateside and he's got 7, 8 pitches. Well, now that's kind of common, not commonplace, but there's a handful of guys. Nate Eovaldi can throw 6, 7 pitches. He doesn't use them all, but he can. Seth Lugo, I think we heard last year, he's got like 9 or 10 that he actually has gone to like at least 3% of the time. Like, a guy like that doesn't need to throw 99 miles an hour. If he's got that big of an arsenal where, the term is tunneling. If the ball comes out of his hand and gets 40 feet, 50 feet to the plate looking exactly the same before it breaks, and you don't know which way it's going to break, it makes it very hard to hit those guys, even if they don't throw like J.R. Richard.
You're in trouble then.
Yeah. And so, pitching coaches, pitching labs, they all have made that so understandable in the game right now that there's pitchers that are just leaning on more. They've got to be able to command them. Like that's what used to get Jack Leiter into trouble. He's got 4 really good pitches, but there's days where he can only command 1 or 2 of them. Lately, he's been better. And when I say lately, it's like early this year, really good.
Yeah.
Then after the blister, he struggled a few starts, but he was really good last time out because he's commanding 3 or 4 pitches a night. Still not a finished product, obviously, but he's showing progress. And it's not because of what made him great at Vanderbilt, which is 2 just plus pitches.
Yeah.
He's now giving hitters more to think about and refining some third and fourth pitches, and it's making him a better big league pitcher.
How hard do you think it is for a guy like that who is a stud in college, but he's got 2 pitches? That's all he needs.
Yeah.
And then he gets into professional baseball, starts making his way up through the minors. If he's a stud at a place like Vanderbilt, he's probably pretty highly touted like Jack Leiter was. How hard is it for those guys to make the adjustment from relying on 2 pitches, but now you got to have more?
Yeah.
Now you got to find more somewhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. You think like Jacob deGrom went to Stetson University, right? So like the ones that are really high profile and they're pitching on ESPN College World Series, not all those guys make the same translation to pro ball that some do. Like a lot of times these guys come from small colleges, junior colleges, and end up being tremendous pros because they kind of have to, they fight their way all the way up the chain. The thing about Leiter is he came in with such high expectations. Number 2 pick in the country. He's sent right to AA. His dad's won a couple hundred games. I may be exaggerating on the number. Like he comes in with like such high expectations from the media, from the game, and like you said, he had to learn to become a professional pitcher. He had to develop more secondary pitches than just that, that one breaking ball that was getting college hitters out left and right. And it's so rarely linear with pitching prospects. Hitting prospects from time to time, you'll see a Wyatt Langford, someone like that he needs about a month at every level, and then he's like rookie of the month in the big leagues. Like that happens with hitters time to time. Pretty rare with pitchers that it's just a straight ascension. And for Leiter, it was a struggle for a couple years. The first summer in AA didn't go great. The next one, there were flashes, but overall it didn't go great. Last year, he was awesome. But by last year, when he's in AAA, it's almost like the industry. When I say the industry, I'm not talking about pro ball. I'm talking about the Baseball Americas and the ESPNs and the fan graphs, like the online community. Right. I wouldn't say they'd given up on him, but they dropped him off all the top 100 lists. And I think it's not because of what he was doing in AAA, because I think he was the Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year last year. So like he was having a great year, but what they all saw was this guy didn't zip to the big leagues after being the first pitcher taken in the draft and being the best pitcher in college as a sophomore. It's almost like, well, he has not been perfect and it hasn't been linear, so we're going to write him off a little bit, which I think is insane because, it takes time for most pitchers to get it figured out.
That's interesting because I noticed that myself. The coverage of him as he made his way up started to chill out a little bit. But then at the end of the year, there he is being named the Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, I'm thinking, okay, well, now, which is it? These guys are really cool on him, but here he is, Pitcher of the Year at AAA.
Yeah, and I depend on Baseball America and all those publications. I devour them. So I'm not trying to denigrate what it is they do. But I think when a publication like that or a website like ESPN puts these guys on a perch and on a level where like this is the next big thing, and then it doesn't work out for like 2 years, they almost like they want to save face and say, well, he's just not what we thought he was.
Yeah.
Not let's be patient.
Yeah.
And let's see him work through this. He's never had adversity as an athlete in his life, probably. Like that's a skill you've got to develop as a pro. When you first are confronted with losing and getting knocked out in the third inning, you've never had that happen to you. How are you going to adjust from that? How are you going to rebound, respond mentally, and what are you going to do to get better before the next start in those 4 days between? And that's something he had to learn. And I think the proof is in the games we watch on TV now. He's just a different pitcher and a much better pitcher than he was the first couple of years on the farm.
And I didn't realize he added a couple pitches just this season.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the kick change and a two-seamer.
The funny thing about the kick change is that's going to be the Rangers' legacy of Matt Festa, who was here for a few weeks last year. I think his ERA was probably over 7. He got hit around a bunch, but he taught Leiter the kick change, or at least like had him. He showed Jack and had him, helped him refine his own. And so, yeah, that's become a big pitch. He had, I can't remember who it was, a couple days ago in his last start. He struck somebody out on him and ended up like on Pitching Ninja or one of those Twitter accounts said it was the pitch of the day in Major League Baseball, that one changeup he threw. He didn't have that pitch last year. He didn't have that pitch ever until like this year, at least as a pitch that he wasn't tinkering with, but taking onto a big league mound and in like leverage counts, he's throwing it to get guys out. He's just, those are the little changes that, young pitchers have to make to succeed in the big leagues.
What do you think about watching DeGrom?
It's something else, man. I think I mentioned I was in Baltimore last week. So I was there the night, that he took a perfect game into the 7th and a no-hitter into the 8th. And, we all see it on TV, but I had never, I've probably been to a start or two of his here. But that night, it's something when you're on the road and when he's dealing like that, there's no buzz in the crowd. There's almost like a nervous hush. And so it's like you're like quietly watching this artist just carve. And it was awesome. I had this conversation on Twitter the other day with some fans. I think I said something like, "This is the best pitcher in Rangers history," and I got a lot of response on Nolan. It was Nolan. I was like, Nolan was great. I'm not trying to take a shot at Nolan Ryan, but nobody's ever, and this may not just be the Rangers. This may be this generation in baseball, a couple generations. No one has had the kind of stuff that DeGrom has with that kind of precision.
Jacob DeGrom is another level of pitching,
He
period. He's amazing.
So before he got here, my favorite pitcher in Rangers history, just because of a very brief flash, was Cliff Lee. Mm-hmm. And what he did in 2010, which basically is the reason that they got out of the Tampa Bay series and that they got past the Yankees and into the World Series. Cliff Lee's the reason.
Yeah.
His precision was plus elite, but he's not throwing 99. That's the difference. DeGrom's the combination of Nolan Ryan and Cliff Lee.
Yeah.
Like Cliff Lee's assassin precision with Nolan Ryan's I'm going to crush you type of stuff. And the fact that we've got a pitcher now that combines the two, and yes, he was hurt most of 23 and most of 24, but I will remind people, the 6 games he pitched in 23 in April, they won all 6. If they win 4 of those 6 games, we don't make the playoffs and don't win the World Series. So even though it was a very brief run in April, they won all 6 of his starts. Comes back very late in 24. By then, the season's basically over, and they're want to get him sort of acclimated to competing. Going into 25, I go, what are we going to get? Hopefully health, but what are we going to get? He has been every single time out dominant, and that's the reason why I just hope against hope that this team finds a way to squeeze into the tournament, even if it's on the final Sunday of the year, because you get into the playoffs and everybody's win-loss recalibrates to 0, and you got DeGrom and hopefully a healthy Evaldi, those two going. You compare that to having Evaldi on Montgomery in the World Series year, which one are you going to take? I will always bet on Nate Evaldi in a playoff game. A big game Nate is a real thing.
Yeah.
But Jacob DeGrom pitching twice in a series, it would be a shame if they go through, DeGrom's got 2 more years here after this one and maybe a third. But not knowing what they're going to get out of him past 2025, it will be a shame if they do not get playoff Jacob DeGrom, because that would be something to see.
Man, it is just sheer artistry.
It is.
I have never seen a guy who can over and over again put the ball right where the catcher's glove is and not having to move an inch.
Yeah. Yeah. There were a couple times Wednesday night at that game where he would get a swinging strike and you could see him going, he was just pissed himself because he missed by 4 inches.
Yeah.
Of where he was wanting to put the ball. And in the meantime, the hitter's walking back to the dugout with his head down. But that's Evaldi's the same way. It's not always about the outcome. It's about, am I making my pitches? And DeGrom's like that. He's a perfectionist. And more often than not, he hits his spot.
It's just amazing to watch.
Yeah.
What were you thinking as the team was being put together in the off season about these off season acquisitions that they were bringing in, these guys that they were bringing in here to theoretically anyway hit?
Yeah. I felt really good about it. A few reasons. the big sort of Achilles heel that the offense had in 24 was they were being fed to elevated heat. Like they were not as a lineup able to handle high fastballs. That was the book on them. They knew it was coming. Love Nathaniel Lowe, but like from the day he got to Texas, that was always sort of like the hole in his swing. Was you throw him a top rail fastball, he's just if he decides to swing at it, he's going to pop it up if he gets anything on it. And I mentioned him just because that was like known to be sort of a weakness of him, but there were others in the lineup that it suddenly became a weakness, and no one was hitting fastballs up. And so like as a viewer, you knew what was coming on 1-2. They're just going to throw a fastball an inch above the zone, strike three, or pop up to short. And so when they went out and got Jake Berger in a trade for 3 prospects who were tier 2 at best, no one that really hurt to lose, for 5 years of control. Like Berger, even though he's older, got to the big leagues late. So they've got him for a while. And then Jock Peterson crushed fastballs last year. Yeah. And he crushed fastballs in spring training, which doesn't matter. But like in spring training, he looked like, man, this guy is going to be our 3 or 5 hitter and be exactly what they're paying him to be. Crushing fastball. I mean, that's how he's sort of like, especially if you platoon him and he's just facing righties. That's a guy you're looking at like a 900 OPS because he just murders fastballs, and that's what the team was lacking. So I felt good that they'd identified the weakness and added 2 players that's what they do is they hit fastballs for different reasons. Like for Peterson, before he got hurt, the numbers look horrible, but he was also, if you look at his exit velocities, they were good. The problem with him is if he hits a ball like 101 miles an hour and the second baseman has to range up the middle to glove it, he's still going to get him thrown out by 10 feet because Peterson does not run. Yeah. And so he hit into a lot of outs that other guys probably would have beat out. A lot of line drives to right fielders. Not an excuse. You still have to produce, and he wasn't producing. But I just felt like he's gonna come around because he's hitting the ball too well to have a 130 batting average or whatever. And Berger has been streaky. He's had these 3 and 4 week stretches where he was doing the same thing, hitting the ball really hard, out of the park and producing, and then others where he's chasing and he looks like he's out of rhythm. It hasn't quite worked out. Getting like a full year of Wyatt Langford past his rookie, the off and on that he had last year, I felt good about that. Was hopeful that Evan Carter was past the lower back issues. Like you look up and down. I felt like Kyle Higashioka would be a step up over Andrew Kisner. Like I felt like they'd addressed on the fringes enough spots that and I'm not alone. And again, like the national publications are saying this is the team to beat in the AL.
Baseball America, the aggregate, not the publication, was very bullish. On the Rangers.
Yeah, and that's
the start
why,
of the season,
because of the improvements they made to the offense, is why people were confident about them. They didn't add a ton of pitching. They didn't need to. Like the pitching was fairly well in place. Like the late signing of Patrick Corbin was basically done because John Gray had gotten hurt and they needed someone to chew up some innings. He's been phenomenal. He's been like this year's Michael Lorenzen and better. Yeah. Like the pitching, there's been a little Midas touch on that. They've done a great job. I think the bullpen they assembled inexpensively has been fantastic for the money. You definitely would like to have, one of those $15 million closers that was going to lock things down in the 9th, and you could pitch him back-to-back days and know you're in good shape. And you know what? If they're in the race, that's the kind of guy they may go get at the deadline. Someone to take over the 9th. You move Garcia and Martin back to the 7th and 8th, and Luke Jackson further back. Then you're talking, if you go get a Ryan Helsley, someone that is locked down in the 9th. They probably, I would guess, high on the list. If they feel like they're in the race and are going to become buyers next month and not sellers, or this month as this airs. I think, I thought what they did in the offseason to address the things they needed to address, I thought they did a great job, especially having to evidently stay under not the salary cap, but the competitive balance tax line that ownership must have sort of mandated. They're right up against it. It helped that they were able to get the Mariners to claim Leody Taveras off waivers because that took nearly $4 million off the books. Gives them a little bit more cushion at trade deadline. But that's the other thing is they've built this team without being able to spend over a certain line.
And that's something to be said for that.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So how do you see this thing playing out in the West this year?
I'm more focused on the wild card. I think.
Are you?
I don't want to say the West is over, but Houston's won something like 16 out of 20, and they don't even have Jordan back yet.
Yeah.
You know, the most feared hitter in baseball, in my opinion. So I'm not sure the Astros are getting caught. And Seattle, like if they go get a hitter at the deadline, like they're pitching, we saw it. Like they can roll pitchers out there that are, you know, capable of dominating, and they've had that for a while. They haven't had the hitting. This year they've got some offense. I think they've got like the fifth best offense in the league after years of being more like Texas is this year, where it's all pitching. So between Houston and Seattle, I think it's a long shot to think we're going to catch either of them, but I think the Rangers got as close as one game out of the wild card last week in Baltimore. Dropped back a little bit since, but I think the wild card has got to be the goal. And really, they proved in 23, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just get in, right? They not only got in 23 as a wild card, but they were the road wild card. And they, you know, again, you just like, you have to lock things in, get on a heater, and it doesn't matter. You know, you don't want to have to play that extra round, but that's okay. I just think it's a lot more attainable right now than winning the West.
Who are you watching in the minors these days? Because this is the Newberg minor league report we're talking about.
Yeah, I changed the name, by the way. You made it that, and then about 6-7 years in, I changed it to the Newberg report because I was talking more. I was talking more about the big leagues by then. You know, the guy everybody talks about is Sebastian Walcott, and for good reason. You know, 19 years old and probably in the big leagues at some point next year. Not opening day, but he's been very good in Double-A. He's the youngest player in the Texas League, and he's, you know, raking. And he's not hitting 320 or anything, but there's power, there's speed. So far, even though he's 6'4", they haven't felt any need to move him off a shortstop. You know, he's got the plus arm, which you can sort of envision being amazing in right field if that's where he ends up. Right now, he's a shortstop, and, you know, at some point, Corey Seager's not going to be a shortstop. We don't know when that's going to be. He's had a really reliable year, Seager. But at some point, you know, physically, in order to maintain the bat through this very big contract, you know, they're going to have to sit down with Corey. I think Jared Sandler has said this, and I totally agree. Corey Seager is going to move off the position when Corey Seager says he's ready to. This isn't a situation where you go tell Corey Seager, you know what, you're a third baseman now, or you're a first baseman. I think they're going to have to get to a point where Corey says, hey, I want to perform when I'm 34 years old. Let's move me off to a corner. We're not there yet. He's had a really good year. So where Walcott ends up, hard to say. You look at a guy like O'Neal Cruz, comes up as a shortstop. Now he's a center fielder. That could happen. Walcott's fast enough. He could play center. I think you've got a center fielder now. I think Carter is born to play center. So I think, you know, Walcott could be short, could be right, could be third. Don't know. We're a ways off, but he's the guy in the system right now. Like, this system has a lot of depth. I think it's underrated depth. Enough where they're going to be able to make trades and not really hurt the system. They don't have a ton of high impact guys like they have in the past. You know, there were the years that they had Langford and Carter in the top 10 in baseball, and they've had the years where, you know, Leiter and or Rocker were considered that. Well, those guys have all graduated. And this isn't, you know, back in the day when they had Gallo and Alfaro and Brinson and Nick Williams and all these guys, many of whom didn't really pan out, but were considered to be like, these are future all-stars. Like right now, if you look at the system, it doesn't have a lot of those guys where at least the national publications are saying, these are guys. These are going to come in, these are guys that are going to come in and hit in the middle of your lineup or the top of your rotation. It's more depth right now than upside. And I shouldn't say upside, but star potential. Maybe my favorite prospect in the system, sort of off the radar right now, is a kid they drafted last year out of a Florida high school named Devin Fitzgerald. He just got elevated from the rookie leagues in Surprise to low Class A. I like to use the term, I didn't make it up, but there's this term hitterish, where I'm sure you're familiar with the term. It's like someone who comes up and just competes, gets good at bats. You know, even the outs are good at bats, deep at bats. Evan Carter's hitterish. Josh Smith, hitterish.
Yeah.
You know, Corey Seager's different. Corey Seager's a monster. The hitterish guys are the ones like that you want hitting first or second in the lineup, even eighth or ninth, that just keep things moving. Like Josh Smith has been such a find. Like the fact that he was one of 4 players we got for Joey Gallo. And at the time, most of us, including me, had to look Josh Smith up. Who is this guy? He wasn't a high-profile prospect. But those are the guys that make lineups go when you've got enough of those. And I think Devin Fitzgerald is showing signs of being hitterish and the kind of guy that's going to grind out at bats. His dad was the coach, his high school coach, and I think he's put like 7 guys in the big leagues, that high school. It's Stoneman Douglas, as a matter of fact, where the shooting was. That's the high school in Florida. Fitzgerald is, 18, 19, so he's 3 years away if everything goes perfectly. But he's a guy that, like, I'm checking every day to see what he did because I think they just need more Devin Fitzgeralds in the system. I'm looking at the drafts in 2 weeks. I want to see. I'm not into 3 true outcomes hitters right now from college or high school that, home run, strikeout, walk. Like, that's great. There are guys like that, and you need power. But I want more Josh Smiths, more Evan Carters.
You want batted balls.
Batted balls, speed, defense, guys that just play the game.
I shudder to think where this thing would be without Josh Smith.
Right? Like, he should have been an all-star last year. I'm not so sure he won't be this year. Just such a... the fact is, he's learning first base on the job. Played 0 first base professionally, even in the minor leagues before this. Guarantee you he never did in high school or college. Guy was always a shortstop, I'm sure, in high school. He's learning first base. There have been a couple, plays where he went for a ball he shouldn't have, and it cost them a game in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
But he's made plays. He made 2 or 3 plays a couple days ago in this last series. They were shortstop plays at first. And then he made what I think is a much more difficult play than it looks like, especially if you're 30 feet off the bag after you backhand it, hitting a pitcher on the run, okay? The key there is you got to hit the pitcher in stride so he's not hunting for the bat.
Yeah.
You got to hit him to where he's catching it without having to move his body because he's on a direct line to the base that he's not looking at. And it's a skill. Lifetime first baseman, they got it down. Josh Smith's learning the position, and he's hitting these, Mahomes over the middle, hitting a tight end. And Josh Smith's doing that from a knee on his backhand side, 30, 40 feet to a pitcher. Most pitchers are not great defensive players. I mean, some are great athletes. But he's hitting them right here on the run to where they're getting the out. I haven't seen one play yet where he made a throw that was off a little bit and caused the pitcher to miss the bag or get there late.
Yeah.
He's been phenomenal.
Have you given up the ghost on anything other than a Yankees-Dodgers World Series this year?
I always think, everybody's like, the Dodgers are just, they're buying a World Series. How is it that they're going to pay Kirby Yates to be their 5th reliever? I get that. It's annoying. It would be way annoying if I was a Padres fan or Giants fan and they were in my division. But I'm like, just go beat them. Go beat their ass. Look at what Tampa Bay does every year with one of the, bottom quarter budgets every single season in the toughest division or one of the 2 toughest divisions of baseball every year. They're right there every season. It can be done. It's not all buying playoff teams.
I was reading about Tampa Bay yesterday, and you know what their biggest worry is right now?
Ownership or the stadium, one or the other, right?
Where they're going to play their playoff games.
Yeah, right. And they're in the middle of the team being sold. And that's a whole different, which the Rangers were in 2010, right? When they went to the first World Series, they were being sold.
That's right.
So Dodgers, Yankees, maybe they're the odds-on favorites. Knock them off. Don't let them get there. Just beat them in a series.
You see anybody that can?
I think so. I think that the National League's strong, man. I think, the Phillies are solid. The Giants have been surprisingly good. Let's see what they do at the deadline. The Padres every year are sort of right there, and we know A.J. Preller is going to do something big at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinals and Cubs, the Cubs have been kind of surprisingly good this year. Can they keep that going? Will they do something big at the deadline? Because they rarely do. They don't seem to make big splashes at the deadline too often. I don't yet write the Braves off. It's been a really tough year, sort of like Texas. But it's such a good team that knows how to win. They could get back in the race. We're only halfway through.
Yeah, it's a good organization that seems to pull out the right thing at the right time in any situation.
Yeah, I just think the National League's really strong this year, and I think it would be just a mistake to just assume the Dodgers are going to roll through to the World Series. The American League, not as strong maybe in terms of, teams at the top. Houston's not a great roster, even though they're playing as well as anybody in the American League right now. you know, the East will just kind of beat each other up. That's what they always do. And so I don't know. It could end up being Yankees Dodgers, and I'll still watch it, but it would kind of be deflating if that's where it ends up. But I fully believe that it's more likely that at least one of those two teams does not make it.
I'm sort of feeling Detroit a little bit,
and that's a really good team.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I was conditioned not to be an AJ Hinch fan when he was the Astros manager, just because I can't I can't root for Astros players or managers or management or anything like that. But the job he's done in Detroit for a team that they're also a team that doesn't have a whole lot of superstar firepower on that roster. And I'm not chalking this all up to the manager, but that team's cooking. Like they're playing defense, they're hitting the ball. They've got pitchers that are kind of careering, but like young enough. They're like, okay, maybe this is what they are. Like obviously Skubal's on another level. He's DeGrom level. But that's a really good team. That's one I probably wouldn't want to run into in the playoffs. I would love to see like a Tigers-Yankees playoff series. That'd be something else.
It would be something else. James, pleasure, man.
Yes, sir.
Can't thank you enough for doing this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm going to once again say thank you really for these last 30 years because I am not in this chair without you, sir.
All right. You're overblowing things a little bit.
not in the least.
All right. The great Jamey Newberg here with us. Before we go away, we need to remind you of one more thing here. And that is you can find all episodes on our Patreon page of Your Dark Companion. You can also find us on YouTube and Spotify. So listen, follow, share us on your social media. That means everything to those of us who swim in these murky waters of the podcast. And while we're at it, if you're feeling what we're throwing down, then how about a nice review? If you're by the channel on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, help others find us by leaving a review. That's what we would like for you to do to us. Thanks for watching. Bye. All right. I'm going to go take my pants off. Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.